If you follow Test cricket, you've probably heard the debate that's been brewing, and it feels almost sacrilegious to even ask it.
Right.
Can Joe Root actually catch Sachin Tendulkar? Can he surpass him as the highest run scorer of all time? We're talking about a monumental mountain here.
That is exactly the mission for this deep dive. We want to move past all the fan speculation and actually assess, is this even feasible?
Okay.
And we're going to use the coldest tools we have, the latest stats, career models, and even some really rigorous academic analysis that tries to compare players across different eras.
So let's unpack this. It is a monumental task. Root is the leading active scorer right now, sitting at 13,943 runs as of January 2026.
But Tendulkar's record is 15,921.
That's the number. So the central question for us today is this. Can Root's unbelievable acceleration overcome Tendulkar's legendary decades-long longevity?
The gap is 1,978 runs. And that might sound like a lot. It is a lot. But the fact that we're even having this conversation seriously just shows how incredible Root's form has been.
Yeah. It makes it one of the great statistical chases in sports history.
It really does.
So before we get into the chase itself, we have to appreciate the mountain. We have to understand what Tendulkar actually built.
Exactly. His career, it just defines endurance. He earned that title, God of Cricket, by playing an unprecedented 200 test matches.
200?
200. And it was across a staggering 22-year span from 1989 all the way to 2013.
22 years. Just think about the physical and mental demand of that. He got his 15,921 runs in 329 innings with that amazing average of 53.78.
And what's often overlooked, I think, when we compare eras, is the sheer context of that career. The consistency, for one thing.
Right.
Tendulkar averaged over 40 runs in every single one of the 10 countries he played in.
That's the stat that always gets me, everywhere.
He wasn't just padding his stats against weaker teams at home. He was forging these records against the most dangerous bowlers in the world. Warren, McGrath, Wasim Akram, all of them in their prime.
Yeah, that global dominance is really the bedrock of his entire legacy.
It is. And if you look at their careers side by side at the same stage, Tendulkar was actually ahead of Root's pace.
Okay, what do you mean by that?
Well, at the 267-inning mark, which is where Root is now, Tendulkar had already piled up 13,091 runs. And crucially, he had 44 centuries and an average of around 55 at that point.
So Root had some serious catching up to do.
A huge amount. He started his career at a slightly slower pace. His acceleration needed to be, well, almost vertical just to get him into this conversation.
He had to find another gear.
He absolutely had to. And he found it.
Which brings us to Joe Root. He's at 163 tests, 13,943 runs. He's recently gone past greats like Callis and Ponting.
And he's the fastest player ever to 13,000 test runs, which shows you, while he may have started a bit slower than Sachin, he hit his stride with just breathtaking speed.
We've been calling this period since 2021 the jetpack era. It's just been an incredible, sustained run of form.
It really has. Since the start of 2021, Root has scored 4,579 runs from only 49 matches. That's 90 innings, at a prolific average of 55.84.
That is immense. And in that time frame alone, 17 centuries, for you listening, that means his century conversion rate in this modern purple patch is 1 every 3.8 innings.
An absolutely elite strike rate. And critically, this amazing output is supported by sheer volume. He plays so much.
He's the busiest test batter in the world, right?
Arguably, yes. Over the last 5 years, he's averaged 13 test matches per year. Since the start of 2020, he's played 57 matches. That's 11 more than his nearest rival.
So high frequency plus high form. That's the only way this chase is even possible.
It's the only way.
So let's crunch the simple numbers here. He needs almost 2,000 runs. If he keeps up his career average runs per innings, what does that look like?
You're looking at another 39 innings,
Yeah.
roughly. So that's maybe 2 to 3 years of high-volume test cricket, depending on the fixture lists.
2 to 3 years.
Exactly. Our source models project, he's going to have to play until at least 2028, maybe even into early 2029, to have a realistic shot.
Yeah, and by 2028, he'd be 38 years old.
Yeah. And that's the great equalizer, isn't it? That age threshold. It forces us to ask the really tough question. Can he possibly sustain this for 3 more high-pressure years?
Which brings us to that great analogy, the tortoise versus the horse. Tendulkar was the patient tortoise, just maintaining that high level for 2 decades.
And Root is the horse, running a phenomenal middle stretch of the race. But it all comes down to endurance. Can that accelerated run rate sustain itself without a drop-off?
Well, let's talk about workload. That seems key here.
It is. Root has, for the most part, abandoned limited overs cricket for the last 5 years to focus just on tests. So he's playing these peak innings between ages 22 and 36, his physical prime.
Wait, but isn't it true that Tendulkar played much more cricket overall? Across tests and ODIs, especially early on. Wouldn't his total workload have been greater?
Oh, absolutely. Especially when you consider the different eras and the constant shifting between formats. Tendulkar was exposed to that multi-format demand for much, much longer.
So what's the insight there?
Well, the insight is that Root's very modern approach to workload management, focusing almost exclusively on tests to save his body and mind, might actually be a new blueprint for late career dominance.
An advantage Tendulkar never really had.
Exactly. Root is trying to maximize a shorter window of supreme effectiveness.
But the age factor is still the elephant in the room. He turned 35 in late 2025. Will his reflexes slow down? I mean, we saw Tendulkar have a very sharp, very noticeable drop in form after 2010.
This brings up a fascinating point about technique.
Yeah.
There's an analytical theory that suggests batsmen who are, let's say, very still at the crease.
Okay.
Those who rely on a tight defense and minimal movement, they tend to decline less dramatically. Think Root, Jacques Kallis, Kumar Sangakkara.
As opposed to players who rely on fast footwork or wristy flair, like a Brian Lara or Ricky Ponting.
Precisely. Their games are more reliant on explosive reflexes, which can fade with age. We look at Sangakkara as the best modern example. He was sensational even after he turned 35.
So, Root's famous balance and stillness at the crease might actually be a kind of technical insurance policy against getting older.
It could be. His success really hinges on whether that technique is robust enough to let him join that very exclusive club and defy the gravitational pull of decline.
Okay, but even with this incredible run, we have to look at the imperfections, the fine print.
We do. And when we compare him to Tendulkar's consistency, there's one significant weakness in Root's game.
I think I know what you're going to say.
Australia. He averages just 35.68 in Australia.
And that's a huge asterisk in any legacy discussion, especially for an England player. If you can't master the Ashes conditions, the comparison to a global master like Tendulkar becomes, well, it becomes very challenging.
It absolutely does. And speaking of pressure, we have to talk about his captaincy.
Right. He was skipper for 64 tests.
And his batting didn't totally collapse. He scored over 5,000 runs at an average of 46.44 during that time.
Which is still very high for a captain dealing with that dual workload. But it wasn't the stats that broke him, was it?
No, it was the context. It was the results. The stress just became unsustainable. His time as captain ended after a disastrous year where the team won only one of their last 17 tests.
Including 2 successive 4-0 thrashings in the Ashes.
Exactly. Stepping down as captain gave him the mental freedom to just be a batter again. And his acceleration since then suggests that shedding that pressure was instrumental in powering this chase.
So to sum this part up, while Root has massively improved his game since 2021, Tendulkar still holds the edge on sheer global consistency and, conversion rates across his entire career.
Root is chasing a shadow of perfection.
So to move past these subjective comparisons, we have to use data to try and adjust for different eras.
And there's a compelling study from Newcastle and Northumbria universities that does exactly this. It uses a Bayesian model to find a player's innate ability, regardless of when they played.
That sounds fascinating. How does it work? Do they use overlapping careers to create a sort of bridge?
That's it exactly. They compare how players performed against the same opponents in the same conditions to create an objective baseline. The model tries to neutralize all those external factors.
What kind of adjustments does it make?
Well, for one, it explicitly quantifies home advantage, and it confirms what we all suspect. Playing away from home is detrimental. It causes about a 10% reduction in average runs scored.
A 10% penalty? That's massive, especially with the modern travel schedules. What about the conditions during a match?
It also analyzes innings effects. Performance goes down as the match wears on. Batting in the third innings is like playing away from home, about a 10% hit.
Okay.
But batting in the fourth innings, when the pitch is breaking up and the pressure is at its highest, causes a much steeper 16% reduction in runs compared to the first innings.
16%. That really shows how much harder it is to score those clutch runs when the game is on the line.
It does. The model also accounts for year effects, changes in laws, more test nations, faster scoring rates, and for the real cricket nerds, it accounts for zero inflation.
The high frequency of ducks.
Right. It confirms that getting out for zero is a genuine, unavoidable feature of the game, even for the legends. It isn't just random noise.
So what did the model tell us about Root? And I know the data cutoff was pre-2017, so his best years aren't even fully in there.
That's the key caveat. But based on that 2017 data, Root's expected runs at his peak age placed him at rank 27 among the greats. But the more crucial finding was the uncertainty.
How much uncertainty?
His median rank was 79, but the 95% confidence interval was huge. It spanned from rank 9 all the way to rank 303.
Wait, say that again. From ninth best in history to outside the top 300.
Statistically speaking, yes. It means that ranking great batsmen with a single definitive number is often misleading.
Because of the randomness, the innings-to-innings variation.
Exactly. When you get to this level of greatness, the differences are so marginal that a bit of good luck or a few bad pitches can cause massive shifts in the rankings. The model shows that objective single-number ranks are almost impossible.
This has really laid bare the complexity of this chase. On one side, you have that mountain built on 2 decades of longevity, global consistency, everything Tendulkar faced.
And on the other, you have Joe Root's unique modern challenge. This unprecedented acceleration, fueled by his focus on test-only cricket and playing so many matches.
He's within striking distance, fewer than 2,000 runs to go. But that final hurdle is defying history.
Few masters have managed to sustain that peak form from their early 30s into their late 30s without a slump.
So the success of this chase depends entirely on whether his still brilliant technique can cheat that decline curve.
It's a true test of man versus time.
And that leads us to our final provocative thought for you, the listener. The statistical model quantified the penalty for playing away from home at 10% and for batting in the fourth innings at 16%. Given that Root's incredible post-2020 form isn't fully in these models yet, which of those two factors, the stress of constantly playing away or his ability to master difficult late-match pitches, do you think will be the true statistical determinant of whether he reaches 15,922 runs by 2028? Think about which penalty is harder to overcome.